your free games with Prime in June.
Battle Man and Beast for survival set in the Himalayas in the open-world action-adventure shooter Far Cry 4. Then, adventure to the high seas as Pirate Guybrush Threepwood in the point-and-click adventure Escape from Monkey Island. Join the WRC Championship to win the most challenging motor racing competition in the world. Build yourself a cat cafe of your dreams in the sim game Calico. Journey with the Astrologaster, who uses the stars to cure the sick in 1592 London. Then, follow Alice on a musical adventure in Across the Grooves. With Amazon Prime, you also get free shipping, videos, music, groceries, and more. Play your favorite games straight from the cloud on Amazon Luna. Go to gaming.amazon.com for all these free games and more. Go where the games take you.
Welcome back to the SPL, everybody. Of course, powered by our friends over at Prime. You've already seen the awesome games that you get for free this month with your Prime membership, but there are so much more. Free subs, free game content, Amazon delivery, so much more, all included with your Prime membership. So thanks, and shout-outs again to Prime for powering us here this year in Season 9 of the Smite Pro League. My name is Dolson. I'm a Primer, and I got, I think, another Primer with me.
I'm a Primer.
You gotta be. You gotta be a Primer. Another Primer with me here on desk. So I actually figured our first set of the day, Trelly, was going to be a 3-game set between the Bolts and the Oni Warriors. I'm wondering how this one's going to end up going, because if you look at how the Titans and the Valks have played recently, both teams have had their stumbles. I'm hoping for a more contested set. It depends, I think, on how the Titans come out and whether or not they are swinging. 2 sets remaining, of course, here in this week. And I think both actually kind of similar stories. Titans versus Valkyries is what's up next, and then Kings versus Scarabs to end the week. And so remember, the Valhalla Valkyries still searching for their first set win of the phase so far. The Solar Scarabs able to beat the Valkyries just yesterday. That drops the Leviathans down to tied for 6th seed. Of course, this is a matchup between the Titans and the Valks, 5th versus 6th seed. I mean, all of these SPL standings, seedings, all that gets so jumbled up early. Olympus Bolts hoping to remain the only undefeated team up top if the Camelot Kings end up falling to the Solar Scarabs a bit later on here today. So, Charlie, our first matchup, or our second matchup of the day, the one we are going to talk about, though, Valhalla Valkyries up against the Tartarus Titans. The storyline with the Valks has been pretty consistent. You know, phase 1, they're coming in as an SEC team. We figure there's going to be some growing pains, showed improvement. It's really this phase where, you know, still new to the SPL as far as tenure goes in general, but leaning on the consistent players of your team and being able to play through them, I think very, very important. And I think one of the consistent players for this squad, outside of Ben EQ, who we've talked plenty about, has actually been Kirmi, who I think has really stepped up and surprised me a lot for this team.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think all of the other jungle talent in the SPL have their eyes on Kirmi. I sat down and talked with them a bit ago. The junglers came into studio, and I was talking about the jungle meta and things, and I was like, what about this Vamana? What about stuff like that, like the Shiva? And they're like, yeah, we were just watching Kirmi, and he did it, and it looked fun, so we just tried it. And I was like, that's it? There's no other, we tested it, we saw him, it worked out. It was literally just like, yeah, Kirmi's interesting in the jungle. He's trying out these picks. They end up working, and we're watching very closely, that sort of thing. So definitely a dynamic player. He's got some different gods in the god pool as well. And I think what you highlighted still holds very true. They're a relatively new team into the SPL, trying to figure out what kind of style works for them. I think they're still being quite reactive instead of proactive, sort of reacting to how the other teams are playing and seeing what they can do to try and counteract that. Either way, they're trying new things, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, I want to see what Kirmi's going to bring out today as far as jungle picks go, because to your point, Trelly, Osiris, Serket, Erlang Shen, Nemesis, Achilles, another Erlang Shen game. Those are the last 6 games that Kirmi has played. So some more unique picks in that list, some more standard picks in that list. I also agree with your point, reactivity versus proactivity. The Valkyries showed some great moments up against the Solar Scarabs, grabbing onto those, converting those into win. That's going to be a key here today. Kirmi, the man himself, standing by with me for the pre-game interview. And Kirmi, Trelly was just talking about it there. Do you see yourself as a bit of a theory crafter in the jungle that other junglers in the SPL maybe take some ideas from?
Each other more so than not. Me personally, I don't really feel I'm as much of a meta creator as somebody like Benny is, right?
Right.
I think for specifically like the Vamana, and the Achilles, a lot of it's just like we just think it looks good and it's worth just giving it a shot and seeing if it works.
Well, look, you guys had a competitive 3-game set yesterday against the Solar Scarabs. High level for me, if you will. What were some team takeaways, things you think you did well, maybe didn't do so well? What are you hoping to change going into your set today?
A lot of that set, we lost most of the early game due to poor communication and bad like mechanical plays, and we ended up just playing really reactive for most of the all 3 games actually. And we want to kind of change that and kind of play going on the forward for a foot and just kind of getting in there.
When you think about the Titans, your opponents here today, what type of play style comes to mind when you think of how the Titans play the game?
I personally think Titans are the best team fighting team in the game, so it's really tough to try to beat them when they start getting to the late game. However, I also think Layers is really good at controlling the map early. So a lot of it would be trying to shut Layers down and making sure that we can get the ball rolling for us.
Jungle matchup's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Best of luck and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Kirmi, always cool, calm, and collected, and I think that's a good headspace to be in, always taking the previous matchups for what they are, trying to learn something from them moving forward. Now, I also agree with his point about the Titans being one of the best, if not the best, team fighting teams in the SPL right now. Such a solid squad, centered around a really, really good and tenured core of players. You look at Paul, Aurora, and Cyclone Spin, and then you add in Layers. SOT has been so dynamic here for this squad. And Layers has been a lot of fun to follow along with this team. Probably not the phase 2 that Layers had drawn up for himself. Still been, a good player for this squad. But I think Layers has some more in the tank that we haven't gotten to quite see yet here in phase 2.
Yeah, for me, I think they're just coasting off the Masters win. They were far and behold, they were the best team at Masters, no doubt. They played the meta the best. There was never really any doubt that they were going to win that tournament. Even after interviewing the teams after we faced them, they're like, yeah, they just knew what they were doing more than us at that point. And so I think the Titans maybe, coasted off that a bit and said we don't have to really up our game that much. We're the best. And then realized with 9.6 or the bonus patch rather, like, hey, maybe we should, get back into the swing of things. But they took a little bit of a fall up against the Oni Warriors at 2. That's got to hurt. And now I'm expecting to see a lot more dynamic of a play style. Layer's one of those junglers, much like Kirmi, that likes playing the things that are good in the meta, but also sticks to his tried and true picks. Like, he'll play a Wheelix every once in a while, things like that. Things that he just likes, even if they're not so much good, he'll make them work just because he knows how to control the map very early on, like Kirmi was just highlighting. So definitely 2 similar teams in that regard, but I think they'll be able to bounce back. I think they have a lot of experience with, getting some very easy wins and also some very hard losses, that sort of thing.
And Layers has leaned into the Fenrir, which has started to make some waves. Nemesis has been really popular for him as well. And playing around Layers and really allowing him to facilitate is going to be important for this team, especially when you get the Nemesis, the Gilgamesh, the Fenrir. Great, not only potentially carry gods, but good at finding damage for the rest of the team. The dual lane going to need to step up for both of these teams, and that's an area where I think the Valkyries are going to have to focus here today. When you play against Aurora and Cyclone Spin, who again, are having a good phase. They just won Masters. They were the best team in the league at Masters. Now hoping to get some momentum going here in this phase. Between Aurora and Cyclone Spin, I think Gamma and Wowie kind of figuring out their dynamic moving forward for this team going to be very, very important. Picks and bans, Trelly, as we get into them for game number 1, what roles do you think maybe start to get prioritized for both of these teams? I know Benny Q likes to save his pick for later on. Do you think the Titans draft something for Layers early? Or do you think it truly just depends on strategy that maybe we've not seen played out in front of us just yet?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chernobog is still highly prioritized for both of these squads, at least taking it away. I think the Titans always like this Mercury pick. That's something they're probably wanting to hold on to if it's able to get through, so I don't see them banning that away since they are in that first pick spot. But Ullr is something that's always going to be very highly contested. You don't want that massive early mid-game pressure because there's so much farm you can get from just mid-pressure alone. You can go to purple, you can go to red. There's a lot of different ways you can use that, so I expected to see that, and it looks like the Valks will take all of those away because they were second pick. Those were the ones. Yeah, they can't grab those, so they all have to be looked at.
Yeah, they all got to get taken away. On the flip side, Poseidon, Nemesis, and Pelona off the table. Kirmi's so talented on that Nemesis pick, so I tend to agree with that idea there for the Tartarus Titans. I do want to just drop this in. This is very random. JMac was using this computer before me, and he has random facts pulled up on his Google sheet. Do you know how far away a skunk's smell can be detected by a human?
25 feet.
A mile.
What?
Apparently, according to cs.cmu.edu. So you've learned something new here today, and so have I. Khepri, the first pick for the Tartarus Titans. That's not something new. Khepri has just been so highly prioritized by every support in the league. Every support's got to have a Khepri at this point. And Aurora played Khepri both games up against the Oni Warriors 0-3-3, 0-3-4. So very similar games out of Aurora. I don't think you're ever sad getting a Khepri this early on, though.
Yeah, definitely not. But something that the Valks like a lot is something that's being hovered in will be instantly locked in, that Achilles in the jungle. Kirmi.
Yeah, right.
I mean, even Aqua plays it as well. So both of them are liking this Achilles, something that deals very well into the Khepri. As long as you can predict where that Scarab's Blessing's headed, you bring your Achilles over there. That Fatal Strike just counters out that res. Always going to be a good option. The Jingwei, one of the safest hunters still in the meta right now. Nothing surprising just yet. That would be very surprising. I don't know if that's troll or just being hovered. I'm not talking about the Osiris. I'm talking about
what
the
a troll
Anubis.
pick, the Osiris.
Well, it's just we've seen Benny Q play it to varying degrees of success. He's able to find some kills, but the Anubis gets vastly sat on, and it will just be hovered for a quick moment and then switched over to the Yu Huang, something that has been taking the meta by storm.
It was something that would have surprised us last week, because it's not something we saw that often for the first couple of matches. And you're very correct there, Trelly. Just now become one of the most popular mid-lane picks. 7 games played, over a 50% win rate. And in the SPL, winning more games than you're not is good when the teams are as good as they are. It's not bad, for sure. I just mean 57% is a lot better than 50% in the SPL when
7%
winning and
better.
losing teams. Yeah, you're doing the Mifflin thing with me yesterday, where I was making a decent point, and you're overcooking the steak.
Well, I don't like ever being called the Mifflin thing, so I'll dial it back.
Look, I would love to be called. Miff is just such a talented, wonderful fellow.
No, he just walked in, so that's why I said
I don't know what you're talking about.
I love
Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, the pick for the Valhalla Valkyries. I think that all but confirms that'll be Achilles solo for Aquarius, and then Kirmi playing this initiator setup style of pick in the Gilgamesh. Not something we've seen Kirmi play in the last 6 games that the Valkyries have played, but I do think something that Kirmi has the ability to facilitate his team with.
Yeah, definitely. The Gilgamesh was so prevalent for so long, and then took a little bit of nerfs, and the meta shifted a little bit, and everyone's like, is Gilgamesh good? And then people were like, oh yeah, Gilgamesh is still good. So I think the Valk's probably getting on that train as well. Just want some early presence with this Gilgamesh. Kirmi just talked about in the interview, trying to counter out Layer's early presence, not let him run the map in the first, 10 minutes of the game. Gilgamesh is going to do that quite well, but something that you are opening yourself up to with the way that the Valks have drafted is that possible Awilix pick that I think Layers always has in the back pocket. You got 2 leaps here in the Jingwei and the Gilgamesh. Anyone getting knocked out by the Jingwei as well could be some trouble. But this Osiris also could just be slotted for the jungle, and they could just be holding on to SOT's pick as well. So just something to keep an eye out for if you are the Valks and you're drafting accordingly. Maybe don't pick any more mages with leaps, stuff like that. The Kumbhakarna being banned away by the Titans, something that you really don't want to deal with if you are seeing a single tank comp, or you have a bunch of auto attackers right now. Right. Just the Osiris as an auto attacker, and that tells me they might be looking to draft some more, because that Kumbhamez can be quite annoying.
Man, Freya has really started to climb up the priority ladder as well. And they'll take a ban in the second wave here. So support's on one side, both Umoja and Kumbhakarna taken away in the second phase of bans by the Titans. And then Artemis and Freya, more carry mindset, both off of the table now. And it makes some sense. I mean, Cyclone Spin's got a great Freya, and Freya has just started to become so popular and so important for a lot of these late game shred compositions to work out. And the Valkyries, to Kirmi's own admission, they don't want to give the Titans anything that's great at team fighting, and I think there's the ability to do that with both of those picks. Valkyries still needing mid and support, we assume. And so we're no strangers to watching the Valks save their mid lane pick to a bit later on in the draft. What style of pick do you think this team is still needing?
The Kabrakan is certainly an option. Anything that's going to out-pressure Khepri, going to be super annoying for the Khepri. And Terra can fulfill that pretty well as long as you're able to not get grabbed out of your dashes. Very telegraphed ability in placing your monolith down and then dashing into it. If you get abducted before you break it, you don't get your second dash, so that could be annoying. But besides that, Khepri very easy to hit with all this CC as well, and you should be just fine in lane. So once again, Probably saving Benny Q's pick for last, as the Titans get a chance to try and counter up here. I already mentioned that a Wheelix pick that could come through, but Robin is also on the table, and it will be instantly locked in. Just a decent dive. He did get some buffs, as we touched on. It's more of a great counter pick to the things like Poseidon, like these big burst mages. So nothing screams to me in this matchup that Robin's good, but nothing screaming that it's bad either.
This is about as standard as standard gets for the Tartarus Titans here. You get a Khepri and X-Ball duo lane, Robin, and I think this is a good pick for Layers. The way Layers likes to play, aggressive in the early, get his team into that mid game somewhat safely. And then Yu Huang, nothing to scoff at in the first couple levels of this game either. So depending on where Layers is able to put that pressure, and depending on what the Valkyries grab for mid, ends up being the Merlin. Could be a chance for some early kill potential, at least some pressure in the mid lane in that mid 2v2. Merlin about as standard gets for mages as well here, Trelly, and that's how the Valkyries will finish off their draft.
Yeah, Merlin plays just like any late game mage will. You don't do that much in the early. You got decent wave clear. You have a little bit of survivability, but still certainly could be looked at by a blink Robin into some Yu Huang abilities. If you can bait out that flicker early on, could be in some trouble, but late game Benny Q should be just fine. I mean, you have so much damage and so much AoE team fight damage. There's a good last bit there for the Valks to grab. I'm just expecting to see a little bit of aggression because that Merlin just doesn't have that much peel for himself early on.
And really a battle of two different elements. You got fire blazing behind me and then cool, crisp mountains hanging out behind you there, Trelly. Who do you think some game changers are going to be here in this game? You think jungles really step up? You want to keep your eyes on the mid lane, support solo? Where do your eyes go?
I mean, given these teams and given how they like to play, my eyes are on both the junglers right now. Because they both like to get active early, right? And it's like, Kirmi just told us in the interview, I want Layers to not get active early. I'm going to try and stop that. Or maybe he was just feeding us some misinformation to bait them. They could have been listening in. Either way.
I don't know if Kirmi's there.
Yeah, he seems very genuine, and I assume that Kirmi's going to say, hey, wherever Layers is, I'm going to try and counteract that and or go to the opposite side and look for some reverse pressure.
What's your take on maybe early in the mid lane here? Because I talked about the Yu Huang a little bit, Robin a little bit there as well. Do you think that actually is a realistic opportunity for the Titans first few levels of this game, maybe out pressure in mid?
Yeah, I just think Robin has such an easy engage on a Merlin. You blink in, you can use one of your two CC abilities. You can root or you can slow. Force that flicker early, then you just ult on top of it, and there's a lot of outplay potential there. It's not as cut and dry as Merlin just dies, but you can certainly bait out that flicker, and then Yu Huang just has so much range as well to try and dive. So Benny Q's going to have to play pretty safely early on.
I do think it's also important if you look at what Kirmi was saying the Titans are so good at, and what we've seen the Titans be so good at over the last couple of phases, the last couple of years, that team fight phase, they are so consistent. Do you think the Titans have drafted a good team fighting squad here? Do you think one of the strengths that Kirmi's looking out for is just facilitated by the way the Titans have drafted?
Whenever I see SOT on Osiris, my mind goes yes. Okay. It doesn't matter what follows. If you've seen him, if you've seen how he pilots this god, he goes to the back line, he gets multiple tethers, and it's just an annoyance. He's too tanky to deal with, and he just facilitates so much for the squad. So, blanket statement, yes. But also, they've done other things besides the Osiris to make sure their team fight's going to be solid as well. Aurora, always great on the Khepri, things like that. So, the Titans, yeah, I think they're playing for the late game.
And remember, this is now bounce-back opportunity for the Titans, who in their last set fell 0-2 to the Oni Warriors, looked a bit out of sorts. This is the style of game where in the past, the Titans have regrouped themselves and been a bit overwhelming for their opponents. But the Valhalla Valkyries, again, showed that they have the ability to kind of smooth over and win out in the early game a bit there as well. And so I keep my eyes on Kirmi in this matchup. I'm excited about what the Gilgamesh is going to be able to do. How much weight, though, Trelly, are you starting to put on the duo lane here for the Valhalla Valkyries? Because Gamma and Wowie have shown growth, but I mentioned it very early on this death segment, the need and the ability to at least stand even with Aurora and Cyclone Spin. A Jingwei plus Terra lane, do you think it can do that?
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I expect to see Wowie at tower line more often than not on a Jingwei into a Xbalanque. You're simply getting outranged whenever Darkest of Nights gets popped, and you don't have that much presence until you're able to get some items online as well. So I think Wowie's going to not want to get ahead. I mean, he would love to get ahead, of course, but I don't think he's going to have that opportunity unless Kirmi goes over there to help. So more so sitting at that tower line, staying back, not forcing fights unless they come to them by the way of their jungler.
I think the most important question, though, Charlie, out of all 10 players in this game, who would you want to be stranded on a desert island with?
That's a good question. I think Kiermy, he's just a delight. He's just
I was going to say Kiermy.
Nothing to do with survivability, nothing to do with, he could chop down a tree well. He just is a nice guy.
I think anyone in this building, if you're choosing them, it wouldn't be about survivability. It's about who can you hang out on a desert island with. And I'd like to think I could with anyone on these two teams. But I think Kiermy just has a good mindset about things. Even if he wouldn't be the one chopping down the trees, he'd be the one figuring out the best and most efficient way at cutting down trees. So I think I agree with you there. I think Kiermy he'd have the wheels turning, and he'd get the ball rolling for us, and I think that would increase our potential of survival, which, albeit with me on the island, somewhat low anyway. How important, though, Trelly, as we get back to actual analysis here. For this Valkyries team, growth is important. We've talked a lot about their growth, and they come into the league as an SEC team. We kind of gave them phase 1 as a buffer. I think there's still time for this team to feel things out, really figure out their identity. But, I think that slows down a bit once you start to get later into phase 2, into phase 3. It's like, all right, we've been here for a little while. They still have plenty of goodwill with me. How important do you think it is for the Valks to start stringing together some wins here, though, this phase?
So basically what you're asking me is how long before the excuse of they're a new team wears off, right? At some point,
I guess, yeah.
At some point, you got to stop saying like they're new, give them time. It's they just got to be like, hey, they've been here long enough. So I'd say it still holds right now. It's early on. I think they've shown that they've improved a lot and that they're able to take these losses that they have been taking and then showing they've been learning from it. I think that's very important because that's what they said coming in. We've talked to them so many times with their interviews and things like that they're really taking this as a learning curve, trying to get ready for things like Worlds, things like that, where they're like, that's when we need to be on point. Right now, we're just going to be a sponge for information, learn how we want to play the game, learn how these teams play the map, and I think they've shown that they can take that information in.
And I do like that Kiermy in the pregame interview has the self-awareness. They have the wherewithal to say, look, we know that we play a bit too reactive. We allow other teams to dictate the games more often than we are the ones dictating the games. And I think at least being able to approach it with that type of mindset, so strong and so important for this Valhalla Valkyries team. On a scale of 1 to 10, because we've already broken down these team comps effectively as much as we can. So I'm going to start throwing you some curveballs here, Trelly.
All right, go ahead.
On a scale of 1 to 10, after an 0-2 loss to the Oni Warriors, how nervous are you for the Tartarus Titans?
I would say a 6.5. Definitely a little bit more nervous than you might expect. I just think that the way you after winning a tournament so dynamically, right? Yeah. So they just, no one could contest them. There was never a doubt in anyone's mind that the Titans were going to win once they got to the finals, right? They were just playing so well, and then just getting blanked out by the Oni Warriors, who we just watched lose 0-2 to the Bolts as well. It's a little concerning to see how much they've adapted to this style of play. So I would say 6.5. They got to show me that they bounced back.
That extra 0.5 is a big difference maker. Don't worry, we're getting into game number 1. It's Titans versus Valkyries. It's red versus blue, and it's more on the cast.
Oh, that took me a second. He said more, and I was like, more what? What is there? There's more of what? What's going on? What am I supposed to know? I'm just dumb, actually, as it turns out. That's where we're at with this one.
Not dumb.
More or Giflin? No, never mind. I don't like the way that sounds.
Yeah,
more is an easy win.
Poorly.
Yeah.
We'll be more.
More?
Hey, I like my name coming first, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Is it like an ego thing? Is it a power thing? Yeah. You like
all of the above.
It's Gordon Mifflin on the cast if you haven't caught that part out. And maybe that's why you need to be the first letter of the abbreviation. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it's the introduction. You always go like, here, it's me and then you. If I'm introing. So it's
and like, I'm never introing.
Next time. I'll get you next time. Okay.
I don't want to take away from you.
We're excited here, though. The Titans, the Valks, and the fun that can ensue. Now, the Titans, there's so much things to talk about here. The draft, though, as the desk could put it, pretty much as standard as you could maybe get from a team like this. In the words of Neil Ma, Poopuang in mid. It's going to be the only time that I say that. And it's just because I thought it was absolutely hilarious that that's what he called it in his interview. The Yu Huang in mid for Paul. Feels like it should be a power point. Might be a huge power point here. They're already low, and they get the kill. First blood onto Kiermy right inside the mid lane.
Yeah, Paul beat me to the punch. I was going to talk about how strong Yu Huang is levels 1 through 3 because of that cultivated Dao, and that's exactly why. Kiermy wants to rotate into the jungle and back in a lane. You can't do it if you don't have beads or a leap available, and it seems like he did not have either there. Likely drop kick in that second slot. So, easy route into the fire combo. Layers on this Osiris with Mannequin Scepter, always looking to fight early on. A standard first blood over to the Tartarus Titans, but Yu Huang is not going to be this lane bully that you've seen the entirety of the laning phase. Once Benny Q, about 2 or so more levels, finishes that first item, Merlin is going to hit an inflection point where his clear is going to outscale Yu Huang's. Until the late game, then Yu Huang becomes that constant poke god. He's not the best at clearing waves. He's not the best at dealing DPS objective damage. What Yu Huang does is presses 1 and continues to do so from a pretty decent range. And if anybody steps too far forward or anybody tries to dive him, he floats on a dragon just out of there.
And worst case scenario for him, oh no, they're walking at me and for some reason a straight line. Cool, I'll just root them all down and then get away. I think he's got a fun kit though. The dragons we've seen used in a banner of way. You had mentioned, I think, the other day how, just hit one of them. You don't really care which. Ideally, you're hitting the one that's back because it pulls towards you.
Yep.
But just hit one of them and you're feeling good. Don't worry about the cross section. Just try to pull them in. And we've seen Paul do that countless times. That's just going to be one part of it. You had mentioned, I think, a little bit of the overlap with this Osiris for layers. And you go back to the interview, unless what Trelly is saying and Kiermi is fake news, they didn't want layers to get off to a good start. And he did exactly that anyway. So that's not the position they'd like to be in.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see Layers piloting the Osiris, because having had the opportunity to play against Layers back in the console days, I know that he really likes going towards that Robin pick with some of the buffs recently into that scaling. You'd expect Robin to go into the role that scales harder, the one that builds more power, but instead SOT takes it for himself and goes for a bit of a different build in that first slot. Spiked Gauntlet, Bluestone, could be a Soul Eater selection to help out with some of that sustain in lane. Already has sustain built into the kit though. The third ability from Robin can heal up to 3 times based on how many targets you connect with. As well as now, if he decides to go down that Soul Eater tree, the amount of healing he's going to get is pretty crazy. So I'm excited to see what this looks like from SOT in the late game. I'm not expecting any difficulties in the laning phase. He's got great survivability. One of the main strengths of Robin is that overhead kick. But how well is he going to be able to create space later on?
All right, now they're trying to create a chase, and they're going to have plenty of it. Aquarius is low. And that tower line is not close enough to feel safe to get away under. I'm going to be honest with you, Mifflin. This Robin pick, I completely forgot about it. Like, I saw Osiris for layers, and my brain just recognized that as natural and did not want to complain about it. And now, I think it still stands. I mean, a 2-0 start for him. Golden Blade now finished. Solar Troll is very helpful in that kill. And it's just going to continue like that. And now you've technically got, what, 2 people on your team who are going to be able to dive really easily into some backlines later. Maybe put some pressure onto Benny Q, Kiermi, and specifically Wowie as well on this Jingwei.
I think Kiermi is a good topic of conversation now because of the style of build that he's elected to go for. That spiked mace in the second slot means that you're not getting Golden Blade. Don't pick up a Golden Blade, you're just going to get outpaced in the jungle. Layers clears so much faster than Gilgamesh on this Osiris by rote, but now by build as well. Expect to see these invades.
Honestly, Aquarius needs to be careful here. I mean, that root connects with Osiris in the jungle. Could have been something bigger. This is going to be a blue buff invade. And just watching again how these teams, or how these two work together, it's that root more than anything that is going to cause the most trouble. I mean, you had mentioned the healing, and that's without the Soul Eater, that's without more than level 1 in the ability. In like 10 minutes, that's going to be a good heal for Sot, and it's going to help lock down people. That's going to be frightening for Aqua and anybody who stands in their way.
I am curious, though, what SOT's priority order is going to be on his leveling. Generally, in the jungle, we'll see people max out overhead kick a little bit earlier on because it reduces that cooldown, giving you access to your survivability more often. But with this style of build, maybe you see SOT go down that third ability path so he can really leverage all the sustain that he would get from Soul Eater. No points in it just yet. You're always maxing out the Prana Onslaught first. It's just such a low cooldown, such a good damage output. So we'll be able to check in
like
a little
level
bit later
9,
on.
level 10.
Yeah.
That'll give us
there.
that's where we'll see the second point where he's going with it, and maybe that'll open up something. Kiermi looking to get some work done. Goes for the blink. There's the dash from Cyclone. Wins the Shamash drop kick. Good. They're going under the tower, but the tower has damage. Kiermi has to back off. Wowie wasn't close enough, and Gamma knows a little bit better. It's scaling damage. The longer you're under the tower, the harder it's going to hit. And so they have to play that one carefully, and unfortunately for them, carefully means Cyclone gets away.
Fortunately for them, though, they at least stripped the beads away from Cyclone Spin, so another attempt within the next 150 seconds could go a long way. Gamma, no dash, taking a lot.
Yeah, Cyclone Spin. Hey, I don't want you to put pressure on me. Cyclone Spin also chases them down in their literal jungle with reckless abandon is what I would call that. I mean, he just rushed him down. It works out pretty well. They managed to get a couple of offerings just from the jungle itself, and then steal some on top of it. So if you're looking for something like a trebuchet, well, the Titans are on their way to it. Sot goes for the steal on the blue buff, does that, and using that ult, is able to just jump on over the wall and find himself disengaged for funsies.
SOT solo invades, so doesn't split the farm with layers, gets it for himself, does split his own blue buff. That's a significant lead over to the Robin already, and it is going to be very difficult for Aquarius to find these kills. It's going to be really difficult to set up for these ganks because of all the sustain that SOT has built into his kit. Generally, age-old Smite, if you want your jungler to show up, poke your lane opponent. Junglers love seeing half HP targets. They love seeing anybody with any damage in them. Good luck getting that damage to stick against this Robin.
Speaking of half HP, Cyclone Spin, very well acquainted with it right now. He's going to have to play carefully. Purple buff invade for the Valkyries ends up paying off. That's about the time where you can see where some of these invades, and specifically where maybe the first blood bounty has been paying off even more so for the Titans. Kind of pushing at least over 2,000 gold, almost pushing up to 3,000. Already 8 minutes in. That's one of the things we always talk about. And, you know, Dave and Trelly had mentioned it on the desk. How long does that "they're still new in the SPL" blanket statement start to cover it? I feel it's getting into the sunset, right? Where we're starting to get to the halfway mark of the year. But for right now, I will say this is like the hardest thing that has always been adapting to is the SPL team's farm game is just nuts.
And you can see where it's been found as well. 2 levels in the jungle, 2 levels in the soul lane. Even with Cyclone Spin being as pressured as he has been, he's maintaining level parity up against Wowie. Lost out on his own purple buff, I believe twice now. Got dove inside his own tower. Still not really all that far behind, maybe about a half level, favoring the Jingwei. But Aurora's been rotating a little bit more actively. Gamma, on the other hand, has been sticking around in that duo, still behind.
Chasing down Gamma. There's going to be the root, although has Terra pretty tanky under a tier 2. Yeah, the Titans will be going a little bit too deep here, and it's going to pay off. Aurora burned down and killed off Sot's low, and all you need is one more hit. Aquarius gets a double kill, and the chase is on layers. A few autos is all they need. Wowie able to pick that one up with the help of Kirmi, and it is a 3-fold from the Titans.
I mean, you did the analysis work for me before, like during the team fight. Why are the Tartarus Titans dedicating that level of dive into a tier 2 tower onto Gamma, of all people? Regardless of the Terra, which you're right to bring up, has tons of survivability, burst healing from the ultimate, the healing over time from her third ability, double dash, right? No knockups can connect with her as long as one of her structures is on the field. All kind of adds up to a situation where the Tartarus Titans really aren't going to kill this guy, especially with Shell still available at the time as well. And in even just the attempt to do so drags them so far out of position. Aurora dropped low, relies on Scarab's Blessing for himself, but here's the thing about Scarab's Blessing. If you're on the right side of the map, it's just less effective because that's where Fatal Strike is. Aquarius able to ignore that revive for his team and does so there beautifully. The Valhalla Valkyries, I'd argue they didn't even have to work for that 3-kill swing. That was handed to them by the Titans.
And it's one of those problems and maybe questions that I typically would see, which is that, what do you get? Like, if you win, like, even if you win that as the Titans, what do you get?
Gamma's life?
Like, Pyromancer hadn't been up yet, you kill Gamma. And that literally might have been it. So maybe, well, not maybe, absolutely a little too far for them. And as it was just highlighted, thankfully through the grass, you can see there, cut in half. I mean, what was approaching 1,300? It's now still, well, brought back up to 2K for the Titans, but it got cut down to 1,500 just through those kills. So an impressive amount of return farm for the Valkyries. As maybe getting splintered a little bit as the Titans go back to farming.
You know, nobody picked up the Valhalla Valkyries speed buff. I think maybe it was stolen away. Kirmi left it behind, and now it's all about that Pyromancer, that goal that we were talking about earlier. What do you get if you get the kill on the Gamma?
Could have been it.
Well, you got it either way. The Tartarus Titans are allowed to make those kinds of mistakes because of how much stronger their macro farm was throughout the early portion of the game, stealing away those offerings, getting their obelisk charged up early on, controlling the neutral farm around the mid, all these blue buff invades, nets you a lead, and even when you do fall 3 for 0, you're still ahead in both experience and gold. You're still capable of respawning and walking down the Pyromancer, and that's exactly what they do. We're back to exactly where we were before the Valhalla Valkyries had a kill in their column.
I was worried about a roar there for a second, but I guess I don't need to be. Yeah, the Valkyries have just not been able to keep up in that pace. I mean, it is unfortunate for them, maybe, if they can make something happen. There's a large group, 4 of them over here on left. If they can find a kill, that'd be a very easy swivel into a Gold Fury. But you got to find it first. There's going to be an easy dash from Cyclone. Aurora doesn't seem to be too worried. Layers, negative worry as well. And like you said, if you're on the right side of the map, Scarab's Blessing feels like it's maybe not going to get as much utility and value because of Aquarius. Left side, free game until Aqua starts rotating over, and that teleport's nice, but it's not going to get you as deep or as quickly rotated as maybe you would like. So I feel like there's still some priorities here. And I'm just curious to see how the Valkyries deal with this. That's actually maybe the biggest thing to try and tackle when you're facing a team like the Titans, is dealing with this early farm. You know, you go back to the Warriors facing them the other day, and it was, how do you beat a team that farms as well as the Titans does? And they just did it better. They got fights earlier. They started taking the neutral objectives themselves. Whereas so far, the Titans have gotten what? Most of the mid camps, they get a lot, or the only Pyromancer so far. Plus the invades have been going their way more often than not, so they've been able to just pull this game far and ahead in their favor. Aquarius now maybe in a little bit of trouble. And there's the Fatal Strike to get him out.
Well, Mao, he might be in a little bit more trouble later on if Aquarius has another gank rotate his way. Won't have that CC mutant, the ultimate available to get him out of those situations. Aurora, abduct blocked. Kirmi's in.
There's going to be the jump forward. There's Winds of Shamash. And there's going to be the stun. Scarab's Blessing is there, though. Movement speed maybe more helpful now than the res, and that'll get a roar out of there. Looks like Paul might be in a little bit of trouble. Tries to go for the root onto Benny. Doesn't find it. But just like you said earlier, and it's right past that level 12 mark where you typically highlight it, he just presses 3 and he gets on out of there. Aquarius, who already used the escape, is in that trouble you highlighted. Sot's taking some damage, but good old Raven just says no to the tower and walks away.
And that's a call you're allowed to make on the Tartarus Titans because of all the presence the Valkyries just shown in mid. Kirmi's already dedicated the Winds of Shamash, Benny's still fighting in mid, Gamma's there as well, so the Tartarus Titans realizing, hey, we probably won't get to this mid engagement. Our 3v3 is not strong because Layers is elsewhere on the map. What can we do? Oh, hey, we took away Fatal Strike just a moment ago. Let's go ahead and make use of that. Aurora slightly off the mark with Abduct. Cultivated down, no good either. So Benny Q able to survive this engagement. Not sure he realizes how close he had come to dying. Gold Fury, on the other hand, I don't think it's just going to be close. That thing's going down.
Yeah, and there's not a soul in sight for the Valkyries. This is going to push them up close to the 5K mark ahead for the Titans. I also want to throw it out there. I love the word cultivate. And I like that that's inside of Yu Huang's kit, that you get the cultivated Dow. That's all I got out of that one. You said
he is cultivating.
And he do be cultivating.
He's got a lot of
that Dow. And it's been working out well for Paul May. Look, 001 doesn't seem like it's too insane, but when you look at the net worth, he's just 2 down. What?
That's his agent name, 001.
001.
He's the first one. I've not seen any of those movies.
Yeah, which movies?
The 007s?
That's James Bond isn't Asian though.
What? Agent.
Agent. Okay, I thought you said agent, and I was like, what does that mean, and how does it make sense? I was way off base on that. I had no idea where you were going.
Yeah, that's fine.
Name.
Yeah, no, I would have been confused had I heard that as well. So
I was trying to figure it out. I was like, no, that's like, I'm pretty sure it's just Yu Huang is actually like.
No, that adds up for sure. Yeah, 001 is his agent name. That's on me. I gotta enunciate better.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a 001. Like, I don't watch a lot of James Bond though, so I've seen like Casino Royale maybe once, and some of the old Sean Connery ones. Either way, Solar Troll trying to be his own solo agent as he gets aggressive, and should be fine. It's weird when the aggression turns onto a Raven because it's just like, all right, homie still has ult. He has his immunity. Like, I'm not worried for him in the least. Maybe they should be worried for a roar right now, though. Do you have the Scarab's Blessing? And is it going to need to be necessary? He's able to get away. There's the root. There's the Scarab's Blessing onto him. That's going to be the knock-up from Kiermi. They're knocking him back, but the heal, they're waiting it out. They're going to get the damage right as it times out, killing off a roar. But now have they gone too deep? Solar Troll looping around from the back. Layers is here. Paul has Cyclone Spin. But that's not going to be enough. The Valkyries get to back off and maybe get a big neutral objective finally for themselves and the Pyromancer.
Yeah, the team fight for the Valkyries looks really good. So far, we've only seen them concentrated effort, try and take down a roar. The Winds of Shamash always has been on a roar. Benny Q sinking his damage there as well. Now Paul in some trouble, but we'll get a good look at how survivable Yu Huang really is. Still has the Aegis, doesn't have the ultimate though, so no more CC immunity to work with. Wowie may have gone too far.
Yeah, Solar Trolls waiting, arms right there. Now there's Layers, and there's the kill. The dive deep for the Valkyries ends up paying off more for the Titans.
No way.
As they kill off the carry, and they're going to start up the Fire Giant. Aquarius gets back. And now there's no one even close to hear the audio. Kiermi has to notice it. Yeah, he notices it now. And there's going to be the teleport in from Aquarius. It's going to be the 50-50. Can they jump in? Can they get the steal? Titans secure this one, but what about the fight afterward? Kiermi's low, and Cyclone Spin is chasing him down for the autos. Paul cleans up the kill, and unfortunately for Aquarius, he loses the 1v1 versus Layers. It's now 2v5 for the Valkyries, and the 5. Well, the Titans all have the FG.
My heart goes out to the Valhalla Valkyries. It feels like every step forward they've taken in this match has led to 2 steps back immediately. You find your pick, awesome. Wowie overextends, you lose out on the Fire Giant immediately afterward. You get a couple of kills onto a roar a little bit earlier on, and all of a sudden you're not able to transition that into anything either. Good damage, though, from Paul. Gamma may have stepped too far forward.
Oh, jeez. Gamma's just one
he's living.
more hit. He lives through that. Oh, but you got a Trebuchet and a Fire Giant. You're going to keep on pushing whether or not you get that kill. Who cares? You've got Wowie on the ropes, and you take him down. Benny Q hasn't died just yet. We're going to see how long that lasts. Good Aegis. That's going to make sure that that lasts a little longer for the 0. Right now, Layers, right side, taking a tier 2. Rest of the team mid, taking a tier 2. Getting the max value they can out of a 17-minute Fire Giant.
I mean, I might be splitting hairs, but I really don't feel like Benny Q needed to Aegis that. Prana Onslaught's not doing 80% of your HP bar. You're pretty healthy and inside of your own Phoenix, but I suppose considering what he saw happen to the rest of his team just a second before,
yeah.
might as well make sure it doesn't happen to you as well. Tartarus Titans now, Fire Giant power play, available for the next 2.5 minutes and have already done the majority, the lion's share of the work, taking out both Tier 1 and 2 mid-tower. Only 2 towers standing between the Titans and the exposed birds of the Valhalla Valkyries. And the Valkyries' defense, generally, I would say, is very strong. Just by nature of having a Merlin on your team, that's one of the best situations to be Merlin, is in these simplified game states, especially on defense. So hard to fight into him in that arcane stance or the ice stance. He just spawns up multiple no-play zones for the Tartarus Titans. But having seen the damage output and with this style of build, Chronos Pendant, Divine Ruin, and a Soul Reaver, not exactly hitting your power spikes just yet are Benny Q. So, look at it. This is exactly what I was going to talk about. Spawn up an Ice Storm. Throw out some Arcane. The tanks of the Tartarus Titans simply could not care less.
That hurts, too. Like, when you see that happen, like, you're watching. If you are Benny Q, it's just frustrating to know that you're not doing enough. There's going to be, almost a pull. Good reaction time on Wowie.
Agreed.
Just to make sure he gets out of there. Doesn't even use the beads, which is going to, honestly, that's a huge win. They need those. Every relic you can get is important right now, especially with the towers all but gone. Layers is in a 1v5. And honestly, it feels weird to say this. I almost favor Layers in it. And he's going to have the backup. Looks like the Valkyries unsure whether they wanted to commit to this. Gamma's just going to get killed down. Layers and Sot running forward. Sot's going to go in, walk it down like it's nothing. Kiermi has to leap away. The damage is going to be just shy, not going to be able to find the kill onto him. So now, 4v5. Tier 2 on left still stands, but it might cost the Valkyries a Phoenix.
And my 30 seconds on Gamma's respawn, Winds of Shamash down, Wowie no airstrike, and the Phoenix taking damage already. It's SOT in first, and he's going deep.
And Deep might not even cut it. He's going to the fountain, and he's getting a kill on top of it, taking the Titan and doing his best. He's in execute range right now. There's going to be the Scarab's Blessing. They get the body block, and Aquarius is instead turned on Solar Troll, moving forward with the rest of the squad. This 17-minute Fire Giant is turning into a 21-minute victory. Layers goes down, though. It might get delayed. Sot still playing around in the fountain. Titan going to get leashed. It looks like the Valkyries might have a couple more breaths left in them.
Yeah, might have to try and stop this siege on the right side of the map.
No way do they go back in.
Up. The down's
no
good.
way!
And Paul puts him down.
I mean, just a clean kill Gamma. There's nothing you can do here. You've got minions coming in, and you know what? They delayed it slightly, but it didn't make it past the 22-minute mark, Mifflin. The call from earlier still true. And in 21... You guys can't leave the Titan. Come on, man. No, it's so low. You're alone. Come on. You got fire minions.
Over half.
You've got fire minions. You got everything. I believed in them.
I'm sorry.
I believed in them, Mifflin, and they ruined it for me.
Smite
I was
fans.
gearing up the in call.
Gore is getting real intense right now. He's pacing. He is not happy about this game continuing, but
nothing feels worse when you're doing play-by-play than gearing up an in-call and then watching them walk away from the Titan.
I wouldn't know. I would not know.
Next time you could do it.
I suppose. You got your one for the game. It's
I tried to do it twice.
He's got to try and will him. Look, Fire Giant spawning. The Tartarus Titan's still in a incredibly dominant position. 14-some-odd thousand gold in the lead, which actually matters. You might think gold wouldn't matter, considering the pace of this game, but it is still relatively early, and the Valhalla Valkyries, for the most part, are just now starting to finish up their fourth item. If even, only a couple of them have actually finished it. I got tricked by Gamma, who went over his Silver Talisman to finish up Spectral Armor, but this is a massive build disparity. Take a peek at the Titans. They're all starting to get into that 6 slot. It's a massive experience disparity as well, but you only hit level 20 once, and some members of the Valhalla Valkyries will be able to catch up. I think they're right in their decision so far, the Valkyries that is, to not show up to this Fire Giant. You're not winning a fight in neutral territory. You weren't quite able to hang in your own Titan room. So instead, take this time where you know the Tartarus Titans aren't actually attacking the primary objective, your Titan, to farm up something on the map. Strip away some of this farm, get some global gold for your team. Benny Q taking out this tier 1 tower on the left-hand side, just to give you any slight advantage, any slight edge, anything to make this next defense go better.
Ooh, look at Sot. Sot's preventing backs right now. People trying to fight Benny Q. Gamma are going to retreat. Aquarius, you can see on the screen. But Solar Troll's just taking a 1v2. Yeah, I thought it was just harassing some people to make sure they didn't go back to the mountain. And he sends Wowie to the grayscale for a minute. And is still looking for the chase down onto Kiri. Meanwhile, right side Phoenix, it's burned down. And the Titans are feeling a lot of happiness with this one.
Sot in a 1v2 with Lono's mask killed Wowie.
Yeah.
Sot has percentage less damage, and he's still able to do it. Absolutely wild. Now the Tartarus Titans knocking on the door. I think you might be right to make the end call now.
All right, so Fire Minions pouring in. Aquarius right here, already falling low. Roar taking some damage there. Is a good ult from Paul and Aquarius. He's out of there. The rest of the team on the Titans moving forward into the room. Fire Minions now joining them. Benny Q seems to be the target fountain, putting in its work for the healing. Crits flying true, and Aurora looking for someone that he's going to have to make the saving play. Solar Troll, Bully is the only other name for him, but now it's just been too much damage. And in 24 minutes, the Titan goes down.
This one felt such a strange pace of the game, right? That was weird. I almost want to equate it to like when the Harlem Globetrotters show up and start playing against these teams, because it felt like an almost lackadaisical approach to the game by the Tartarus Titans, where they're maneuvering the map, but they're overextending into tier 2 towers at like the 10-minute mark. They're going for these early objectives, but regardless of every mistake that they made, the Valhalla Valkyries just could not find their answer every single time. Is the Tartarus Titans coming out ahead? And if that's the case, 24 minutes makes a pretty good argument for them.
I feel like the Globetrotters reference is a perfect one too, because I could see like that last Sot play over on the left-hand side is the equivalent of like I'm about to give you the ball and then it's always just slipping away from you. I don't know why. I don't know how.
Like the Turkish
You're just
ice
never
cream
going to be able. Yeah, you're never going to be able to grab it. And unfortunately for the Valkyries, they don't grab this one. The Titans up 1-0. We'll see if they close it out in 2 or if the Valkyries will come back right after this.
on your nose, but it's clear how my baby's running this the block, cause you fear what you do to you if you get dirty hands and veneer. What you do, what she is, little boy, I tell you this. If baby wants sit, she can sit. If baby says lit, it's lit. Got your bank account and I cute. If she said it loud, it's the truth. If baby wanna ride, she can ride. If baby needs some time, she got time. Got your bank account and I cute. She can make it count, how about you? She would put you in the bag, yeah. Wouldn't even need a planet. If she wanted, she a magnet. They should let her name a planet. Everything she drop like Corona, viral, make the world start over like I own her. She ain't about to set, but they really wanna throne her. Listen, she like bass, she like Hover. Self-employed, moving paper better than some Billy Boy. Made a choice on the regular, she bring a milli home. Click my phone, get my ass up, get a dinner going. Watch she out there, making sure that you all know. Baby wants sit, she can sit. If baby says lit, it's lit. Got your bank account and I cute. If she said it loud, it's the truth. If baby wanna ride, she can ride. Baby needs some time, she got time. Got your bank account and I cute. She can make it count, how about you? She be always making money, if it's raining, if it's sunny. She make time to call me honey every day. Drop a couple bands on the cook, then he pay. Then a couple more on the tip, baby saves. Daddy's just the everyday, imagine holiday. If I get the 50 cents, she get me holidays. Signing way to fly, if you meet her, know it's true. So if she ever asks you, you know that baby wants sit, she can sit. If baby says lit, it's lit. Got your bank account and I cute. If she said it loud, it's the truth. If baby wanna ride, she can ride. Baby needs some time, she got time. Got your bank account and I cute. She can make it count, how about you?
Staying in tonight and I'm all alone. Feeling okay, then you hit my phone. Saying, babe, wanna meet up? I'm in the club, but I'm done now. Can I come up? Saying, of course you can come by. I don't know why, but you're sunshine. Oh, you're alright. Oh, you're alright. I'm gonna shut my mouth when you say what's on your mind. I can see the pain in your eyes. First I'm left, then I'm right. Don't know how to keep my calm. Baby, don't you tell your lies. Let me say thank you for all this time, babe. I've been loving every time I could call you mine. I don't know why I'm being the one feeling stupid. I'm feeling stupid now. So now it's time for the goodbyes. Everything dies for the sunrise. Oh, you're alive. It's time for the goodbyes. Everything dies for the sunrise. Oh, you're alive. Oh, you're alive. I'm gonna shut my mouth when you say what's on your mind. I can see the pain in your eyes. First I'm left, then I'm right. Don't know how to keep my calm. Baby, don't you tell your lies.
Tartarus Titans roll in game number 1. Harlem Globetrotters, according to Mifflin here, and looked a bit like it, playing with their food there by the end of the game, actually buying their items in the Valkyries Fountain by the end. Now I have 2 fun facts for you. That's going to be my bit for the remainder of this desk. Fun fact number 1. The King of Hearts in a standard deck of cards is the only king without a mustache. Apparently he hasn't seen Top Gun. He's not on the mustache train just yet. Fun fact number 2. The Smite Pro League is powered by our friends over at Alienware this year. Fun fact number 3, you get a surprise fun fact. You at home can get Alienware gear at discounted rates as well if you go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code AWSmite09 for discounts on select Alienware gear as well. So all of those fun facts are a way to say thanks to Alienware for powering us here on the desk, in the player booths, and back in production this year in Season 9 of the Smite Pro League. And make sure to power yourself up at home as well. Charlie Relly joins me on the desk, and I hope he is enthralled by all of those fun facts. The King one especially, but also the Alienware ones. Just too many. An overwhelming amount of fun on the desk.
I would say so, and I'm excited for the next time when you're able to
I'll
give
do more.
Fun facts.
I'll give you more fun facts throughout the remainder of this desk segment. Not yet, though.
No,
You'll have to wait for them, because we do have to do some analysis here, and it's a Game 1 win for the Tartarus Titans in convincing fashion over the Valhalla Valkyries. Again, as we so often see, there are like kill returns early in this game for the Valks. But Layers, one of the junglers we highlighted at the top of this set, there were only 2 of them, so of course he was one of them. The jungler we highlighted at the top of this set really started to roll early in this game. Yeah,
the Valks were aware of this possibility. I mean, we talked about it with Kiermi beforehand. He said they don't want to let Layers get off to an early start. He's able to control the map. And unfortunately, Kiermi falls for first blood to Layers and does, just sets up for all of this. Even though the kills were close, the gold lead never really was. It just seemed like Layers and SOT were able to get off rolling so far, and right after this is when SOT decides to run into the enemy well and upgrade that blue stone bro, just showing how much confidence he had on the pick, and picked up the low nose mask as well. He was just, he was not able to die. Let's see how much damage, how his auto attacks were doing. I see none.
My man is still shielded.
That shield did not break.
No, it sure didn't. Yeah, look, Sot was having some fun here this game. 7-1-6. What a build that is for Sot. Just kind of ran down on the Valkyries. Again, I think, and it's been the story with the Valks, where there are individual moments in these games where you can say, okay, yeah, there's some kill pressure. They're able to make a play, but it's stringing those together consistently enough to take down some of the top teams in this league has been difficult. Though, remember, they did beat Leviathans over in Phase 1. But just felt overwhelming from the Titans. I mean, almost nearly from minute 1, Trelly, we talked about potential mid 2v2 pressure, and that's where Layers found first blood and just kind of rolled that on and forward. And you want to see Paul start to get the ball rolling again as well. I mean, such a talented player, one of the storied players in the SPL, world champion, gets a good game on the Yu Huang, 30,000 damage or so, deleting targets, 306. Really just feels like a clean Tartarus Titan style of game. And when Sot's able to have some fun like that, I think you get a good sense of the direction that the game is going. So back to the drawing board for the Valhalla Valkyries, Trelly. Do you get a sense that there are some individual picks now that you need to take away from the Titans after Game 1? Or are you just trying to redesign your own personal draft if you're the Valkyries?
Yeah, if I'm the Valks, I'm focusing on my own gameplay because you're not banning away Robin. Like, SOT does exactly what he just did on 7 other picks. Probably just as well. I mean, no, you certainly could. You have the ability to, but I would call that a wasted ban because I think SOT does exactly that, or even better on a myriad of other picks. So probably just focus on your own gameplay, what you can tune up, not letting the early lead go through, maybe farming the map a bit better because, again, even when the Valks were able to find those return picks, even when they could, try and find those kills back, the goal just was never in their favor. The Titans just farming too effectively, and it all came out of the jungle very early on. But the Valks still not wanting to deal with that Ula. That'll be the first ban.
Yeah, that's smart. All right, Trelly, one fun fact as we get into picks and bans, and then we'll do picks and bans, then I'll do one more fun fact before the game. Do you want an existential crisis fun fact or an animal fun fact?
Let's do animals. That sounds more fun.
All right, well, we're going to do the existential one a bit later on.
I figured you wanted to.
I'll let you guess. What are the only mammals that can't jump?
That can't jump?
Yep.
I have no idea.
Elephants are the only mammals that cannot jump. Robin can jump, though, and the Tartarus Titans are going to get it again. You said you're not banning away the Robin for good reason. Look, if this gets run back and it's just as good, I still don't think if you're other teams in the league, you can ban this away. But now just another threatening style of pick. And here's the thing. Still no guarantee that this goes over to Sot. Felt like a layers pick during picks and bans for game 1. Still very well could just be a layers pick this game. Also could be an SOT pick. So knowing now what this Raven is capable of, Trelly, can you adapt your draft around that if you're the Valkyries? I mean, do you adapt your draft around what Raven can do if you're the Valks?
Well, I mean, given the draft thus far, already taking the Khepri away from the Titans is probably a better look, right? Because that must have been a terribly boring game for Aurora. You have really no one to try and revive because your whole team is just running it down, and they're doing it so effectively. And it looks like we're going to get mostly run back. Obviously, the Khepri can't be grabbed again for Aurora, but he was just, you can't really dive with your team as a Khepri, and you have to sit back in case someone gets low. We saw a few Scarabs blessings, but I don't know. Just when your team's that far ahead, Khepri's got to be a pretty goring god to play, and the Valks will take that one because they were a little bit worried about trying to, one of your teammates dying, that sort of thing. You want that revive on your side.
You know what I would like to see now if I'm the Titans? Flip the 2 picks. I want to see Raven go jungle and Osiris be solo this game, just to be a bit flexible with it. Now, if you're the Titans, you want to get out of here with a clean 2-0. Maybe you stick with the exact same strategy. But the Valhalla Valkyries, again, maybe play on field can be adapted after a game 1 goes the way that it did for the Valks. King Arthur, there's a bit of a flip. Another strong warrior in this current meta. Aquarius has played this pick once. It was in a loss against the Solar Scarabs just yesterday. 0-3-1 was his KDA on this King Arthur. But you pick King Arthur to be able to stay alive in the lane, bully the lane, and then hopefully find the backline later in the game.
Yeah, well, as long as the Khepri's not in the opposition, you don't need that Achilles execute, so you can just pick some more safety, more pressure. King Arthur brings a lot to the table, so I think that's a smart adaptation there by the Valks, and they will just, once again, save, well, not once again, because I picked the Gilgamesh there. I'm talking about Benny Q, though. Once again, save that mage pick for later on in the draft, or maybe even a second hunter. Either way, Benny Q's pick will be sitting on for a little bit longer. They have that option to wait. The Titans are going to take away Serket and Erlong, so focusing out Kirmi a little bit, not wanting to give him that amount of lockdown and CC. Both of those picks, I think, bring that in spades, so smart bet there. And now the Valks have their option. Will they take a jungler here and leave Benny Q's pick for last? And they grabbed Merlin in that slot last time. Wasn't able to really get online. Made it to the end of the game, but still was just getting dove relentlessly. And it's the same draft, give or take.
Right.
The same 2 people that were diving you last game are still diving you.
So
what are you doing to counteract that? We'll see what they're doing.
I mean, right, you'd think at Jing, you'd say, well, you pick something super safe if you're on the back line. Jingwei's about as safe as it gets, and you get another Jingwei here. Bastet, now there is a big pivot for the Valhalla Valkyries if what I believe to be correct is that this is going to Kirmi. I have no idea in what world it wouldn't. So Bastet out of the jungle. Again, a different style of pick. Of course, Facilitator, yes, as far as the ultimate goes. But also we've seen some heavy Bastet carry style games. Do you like this style of jungle for the Valhalla Valkyries as far as adapting their strategy?
Yeah, it still brings quick farm, but what it does bring more so than the Gilgamesh is the ability to say, okay, I've leaped in, I'm trying to get aggressive, this fight isn't good anymore, I can get myself out. And I think that's a lot better because, the Gilgamesh, if you're jumping in, you are committing. You're trying to fight, and you're dying or you're getting a kill. Bastet can say, oh, this wasn't a good idea, I need to get out here. And it looks like Kirmi's looking for a little bit more safety. On the other side, though, it looks like Aurora is going to play the only Guardian that can't jump.
You said it before I could! Dang it! Dang it! Well, you know what? If he unbound spacebar, so we're breaking like physics at this point because Ganesh is going to be jumping around in game. Although I guess Ganesh is a god, and so the laws of physics don't apply to. Although I guess it's not really a physics thing. I guess if elephants could learn to jump.
Yeah, if elephants just did squats, eventually at some point they'd get the leg strength to jump.
Right, eventually you'd think they could. All right, so Ganesh clearly has the ability to jump because we at hi-rez have allowed Ganesh the ability to jump. That's how I'm looking at it. But really, Ganesh plus X-Ball as a duo lane. Haven't seen much Ganesh yet this phase. Dharmic Pillar's so good at creating these zones in team fights, these no-play areas. And I think it's a strong style of pick for Aurora.
Yeah, it's even stronger just in general because of this draft. You can lock down the Khepri and ohm out the Scarab's Blessing if you need to, but also Kirmi jumps in. You say, no, we're not dealing with any of that. You can also ohm that and say, Bastet, you can't even jump back because we've canceled you out. And the biggest one is the fact that King Arthur has long channeled abilities that you can just silence as well. So I think Ganesh is just a great pick here. the Dharmic Pillars is going to be a great disengage or engage tool as well. And Aurora, again, was just playing this Khepri last game and was probably pretty bored. Wants to be able to dive the backline with the squad. Now they're probably expected to bring that same amount of dive and just presence, so wanting to go something that can match that.
Valhalla Valkyries go back to the Merlin. That's exactly what BennyQ played in Game 1. So some similarities to the Game 1 draft for the Valkyries, some differences. I think the Khepri, of course, if you're doing an onslaught of team fighting, single target, jump in, things like that, the Khepri, of course, is going to help. Merlin goes 1, 1, and 4 for BennyQ in Game 1, so not much of an opportunity to flex those muscles. Surprised that the Valks go back to Merlin, very standard mage in mid?
Yeah, I just think BennyQ knows that it can do a ton of damage. It's relatively safe. There's no amount of peel that's going to save any mage from the dive that he had to face last game, so I don't think going to the Merlin, again, is any tell of, oh, it was good into the Raven or the Osiris, anything like that. It's just Merlin's a good damage dealer, decently safe farm. You've got great clear if you do want to be sitting up under your tower, your Phoenix, sort of like that. You can just chunk out these big AoE damages and say no minions will be getting in, things like that, and I think BennyQ just likes it a lot.
Yep, and so the Valhalla Valkyries, I think my metric for the Valks now, again, if we're still giving them plenty of due credit, time to grow into their SPL role, even if this ends up being a 2-0 for the Tartarus Titans, if Game 2 goes similar to Game 1, it will be. I want to see growth from the Valks. Make it more of a competitive game.
Right.
Give me more areas of your gameplay that you feel like you have smoothed out against the Titans, and really give yourself a chance, right? Because the one game that they won off the Scarabs yesterday was because even in a massive deficit, they put themselves in a position where they could capitalize on mistakes of the Solar Scarab. So if we even see some of that for the Valkyries, I think saving some face and not having repeat of Game 1 is a good look for the Valkyries moving forward. The Tartarus Titans, though, Trelly, they stick with a super similar vibe. Do you see a world where we flip-flop Raven and Osiris, or if you're the Titans, you're just running back Raven solo?
Yeah, I don't think there's any science behind it. I think it's just what a Layers and SOT want. It's probably just SOT, right? He's like, I'm feeling the Raven, and Layers like, all right. And I think Layers gives me that vibe that he'll just say okay to whatever. Like, you want to play it, I'll switch it up. I don't mind. But as you were touching on the Valks, if they just want to improve how this set has gone, no early kill early, I think that would be the best option.
Well, here's your fun fact. This one's the existential one. Every year, 98% of the atoms in your body are replaced. Gormizer Mifflin, take it away.
Isn't it every 7 years that your skin has completely replaced itself or something like that?
Hey,
as well?
here's an idea. Maybe both of you shut up.
Oh, okay. Was that?
Yeah, maybe don't ruin my day, huh?
Huh?
Maybe I want to be the same guy I was 7 years ago.
What if? Why?
Well, I don't. I was a pretty bad guy.
Yeah. See, there you go. What was I? Who was I 7 years ago? How old am I?
You are 28.
Yeah, you're right. So I would have been 21. Me and Katie would have just started dating.
I was
17, that's where I was at 21.
7 years ago?
Yeah. That's wild to me. I was legally drinking. You were maybe or maybe not.
I was off the tails of a world championship.
What's the statute of limitations on that? You're over 21 now. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. We got Paul back on this.
9.
I'm going to say 7, 5,
sure.
4.
Somewhere
3,
in there.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, the statute of limitations corresponds positively to how often you replace all your skin.
Exactly, right?
That's right.
And that's how you know.
Can't charge a guy with different skin.
Yeah, that's a brand new human right there, dude. That's not the same guy who committed the crime.
Wow, I actually hate this.
Oh, but what do you hate more? Do you hate that? Or do you hate... Well, I guess hate might not be the right term. Love the Titans going back to pretty much the same draft. What, they changed Khepri out for Ganesh, and otherwise it's exactly what you expected in Soulward Shoal. Come on, man. I wanted to ask one question.
He can't.
Can't, man. Oh, no, yeah, he can't. Not with Kirmi here. In fact, it might just turn around, and they're going to make him pay for it this time.
Yeah, Layers rotates in just in time to watch his teammate die. SOT, I understand. You see the kill opportunity so early on, you're going for that every single time. You're not really expecting the junglers to be there either. I mean, the buff rotation hadn't respawned just yet, but unfortunate circumstance will cost the Tartarus Titans their soul leaner's life. But the Valhalla Valkyries already off to a markedly better spot because at this time last game, it was Kirmi falling down.
True. It was a very easy kill, and it was onto the jungler. Now you get first blood for your jungler, and you maybe get to assert some of that pressure elsewhere. This is also where Paul could maybe play a little more aggressively. A warding sigil, by the way, pick up there for Sot, which I feel like we've been seeing a lot of variety in the solo lane. We saw a Warrior's Axe earlier, too.
Yeah, I wonder if had he gone Bluestone, like that's just a kill, right? Like with all the dot damage he was able to get, it was 3 procs of Prana Onslaught. You're getting a lot of additional damage in those situations. Kiermy able to secure the big camp for himself. Layers, though, undeterred, will continue to take away as much jungle farm as he can. And I like this strategy from Layers. Put pressure on a Bastet. This is why we saw that weird swap roll style of play between Scream and Veronic.
Yeah.
Bastet's jungle clear is legitimately atrocious until she gets like 1 or 2 items, a couple more levels. At this point in the game, she is really just struggling to get through her camps.
And I really like not only the pressure, like you said, to put onto a Bastet, but the option. Kiermy, you can ward up, you can cover up and make sure that I don't steal your speed buff. But if you do that, I'm just going to take the rest of this half of the jungle. Like, have fun, man, but you're getting 1 for everything else that I'm getting. It's going to be a blue buff stolen away and then 1 secured as well down here for Sot. So Layers is getting enough good farm in their favor to maybe make up a little bit for that first blood mishap.
Yeah, golden hand evaluation. Seems like we're about half of what Kiermy's carrying, so first blood still pretty significant. But with that said, Kiermy has cleared out the majority of his own jungle, and looking at Layers' jungle, it's still all available just about, so we will see that gold disparity closed up a fair deal. But this early in the game, gold is not the difference maker. It's experience. And despite first blood going the way of Kiermy, losing out on both back camps, blue buff, doesn't really get to rotate to lane to farm up, it is a slight experience advantage over to the Tartarus Titans jungler. You'd expect Osiris to be the more active of the two, though, especially with his Mannequin Scepter start. So no surprise there. Good on Kiermy to be able to keep up at this point. We'll see how it changes once Golden Blade is finished for Layers, though.
We'll see. Sot doesn't have the ult yet. How well can you live through a gank one more time up into the air with the King Arthur? Now has the ult and is going to use that to go just up, down, and is looking for more of the fight. Does not have the healing, but does have Layers so far. Looks like it should come out as 1 for 1. Layers being able to pull back 1 kill for the Titans.
And he gets to farm up the wave for himself. Teleport not up for SOT, so then the next wave belongs to Layers as well. A pretty good feels moment for the jungler as Gamma could be in some trouble here. He can't move.
There's going to be good autos from Cyclone, but a sprint out of Gamma gets them right under tower and back into safety. Feels like Sot is playing in a way that maybe, perfect scenario gets you kills. Imperfect scenario gets a lot of farm to Layers, so really you're just feeding your jungler. I mean, he's level 6 to 4 for Kiermy. And I expect Kiermy, a camp or 2 here should hit 5 in theory. Yeah, there it is, but that is a significant lead to have.
Unfortunate circumstance for Layers, though. Sot's not the type of dude to let you get all of his farm and not get something back himself, so SOT does clear out the entirety of the right side jungle away from his Osiris, which means Layers will have to path elsewhere. Would have likely benefited this Osiris had he been able to clear those back camps, then meet up with SOT on the blue buff, but Sot really needs to get these Soul Eater stacks rolling, so the gold probably better to go to him. Layers, though, with this opportunity, can stare down a purple.
Yeah, has his eyes on a different jungle right now. It's going to steal away the purple buff. There's the Dharmic Pillars that were dropped. Ult from Wowie used defensively. And while they don't get a kill, they do at least steal away some experience there. But they're going to lose out on their own Greater Scorpion because of it. Good call from the Valkyries on the right-hand side. Mifflin, contrary to last game I feel like we were already starting to talk about a 3,000 gold lead at this point. Now it is in favor of the Valkyries. Not so heavily that things are anywhere near as askew as they were last time. But enough that they are at least keeping pace with this game. The farm is coming a lot more consistently, and I mean, as you pointed out, they've been able to get 2 pretty clean kills.
But they haven't been able to separate themselves just yet. Around that 10-minute mark, Pyromancer is a pretty decent option for the Valhalla Valkyries. We talked last game about how strong Merlin is in a base defense or base siege situation. Equally strong when you're just trying to burn an objective. So, if the Valhalla Valkyries can find a couple more picks, maybe Benny can get involved that way.
Now, Kiermy tries to pull a roar in. Gamma's going to help. There's the push from Paul, but it's not enough to save a roar. Kiermy's going to put a second one on the board. Gamma's close to dead, but Scarab's Blessing, that's just too good. And the chase down, he gets too far away. So they manage to come in. 1 for none. Kiermy picking up another.
He is, but he's still behind, isn't he? 2-0-1 on the Bastet, 100% kill participation. Still struggling to stack up that Transcendence. Still a level down on Layers, who's sitting 1-0. At least able to find that kill and then rotate back over towards the blue buff. So Aquarius getting some help in the lane. I'm just waiting for that breakout fight for either one of these teams where it transitions into an objective or it goes towards a Gold Fury. You pressure out some of these towers. Because so far, when the Tartarus Titans find something, it's immediately followed up by, at minimum, a buff invade. The most we've seen from the Valhalla Valkyries is stripping away that one Greater Scorpion.
What else can they get? Let's give it about 3 more minutes. Pyromancer will be back up. That's the hard part right now. You know, and 9-5, now 9-6. All of the changes specifically to neutral objectives. You know, you could get a comfortable lead prior to this and, you know, maybe swing a 7-8 minute Gold Fury. It's a little harder to do now, trying to swing something so early, which is why we've seen it delayed so far. Titans, though, usually able to make up for some of that in farming. They're still trying to come in. Maybe look for a steal. Dharmic Pillars are up for Aurora. Last time, deemed worthy enough to drop, but with Kirmi in the jungle, Cyclone Spin's just trying to get away. Aurora goes for an offering.
Surely not.
And is trying to split this up. All it's going to take is the Dharmic Pillars. That's going to pull some people in. Body blocks are good. There's the pull. And it should be a kill. It's just taken a lot of time and a lot of investment to kill him off, but they get it nonetheless.
I wonder if Aurora could have just kept walking towards its own base. Maybe he splits off because he's worried about Cyclone Spin getting caught in the crossfire, but with Darkest Nights going for the offering there, just gives over a sound cue to the Valhalla Valkyries. They had no vision on either Aurora or Cyclone Spin, but when you hear Chalice drop and you're on that side of the map, you kind of know exactly where somebody is, be it Aurora or Cyclone Spin. So easy collapse in for the Valks.
Well, now they're going to try to collapse in one more time. Cyclone Spin's the target. There's the pull. There's the beat. Cyclone trying to stay alive. Not going to be able to do so. Kirmi making sure to put up 4 on the board, keeping the Valks alive.
Strips away the beads from Cyclone Spin, so subsequent rotation is going to find a little bit more value. The Valkyries sticking around, finding something on the map. Purple buff looked at, but Layers has made the rotation. Wow, he's got ult still, though.
Yeah, Dharmic Pillars keeping Kirmi locked down. The rest of the team chasing down. Wowie, wowie. With the ult is able to get just far enough away. Kirmi had the disengage earlier. Now it is just Gamma, and the push misses the pull, does not connect. And Paul is not able to get anything done with that ult. Kirmi coming back into this. They split the Oracles. And the Valkyries find themselves up about 1,200 gold.
It's a good spot for the Valhalla Valkyries considering the pacing of the last game. Experience favoring them as well. We're starting to approach that point of the game where Pyromancer's spawning up, 5-1. You've got a significant lead on Kirmi now. Already finished up stacking that Transcendence, or about 7 stacks away. Likely Jotun's in this next slot, so good infusion of CDR. I'm liking what we're seeing from the Valhalla Valkyries. Really seems like that early death in game 1 had hampered the entirety of their game plan. Now it's the Valkyries getting proactive. It's Layers getting drawn around the jungle by his nose, trying to keep up with Kirmi, and it is really reflective on the game state. The Valhalla Valkyries doing much better now that their jungler has been allowed to be the proactive element.
Yeah, especially last time. I mean, you had mentioned it earlier, but because of that first blood was something that was very troublesome for him. Nothing big happening over in solo outside of just slapping each other silly. Over in mid, I thought Paul was going to be in a little bit of trouble. It looked like 2 bodies were on top of him, but he's more than fine. Cyclone has also been in the eye of the storm. Them and Aurora, almost said Aurora. Aurora has been caught out a few times by Kirmi. And the problem I always have with this, and I want to know what your thoughts are. Kirmi, you know, we were talking earlier about like falling behind in gold, and specifically more so experience, things like that. Has managed to come up 4-0, tie up at least in terms of level for now. But I always don't know how I feel when every kill is on just one guy.
It's not ideal, right? It's kind of like what we've seen from the Solar Scarabs. The Valkyries are successful in their Gold Fury takeaway. Is generally Scream will be the one who gets all the kills for himself, so it puts so much weight on one player. If you're the one that falls down in a team fight, and you are, if you're the one with the lead, the most likely, especially out of the jungle, to fall down first, as you are getting active. You generally have to get into close range to deal your damage. Really does remove the majority of your lead. So Kirmi will have to play very safe from here. Got a massive bounty on him. The Tartarus Titans will not allow the Valhalla Valkyries to take the Gold Fury without at least something on the map going their way. So Pyromancer taken in return to keep that golden experience a bit closer to equal. Surprised that the experience has been cut so quickly, though. It felt like we were about 1,500 just a moment ago, now down to 5. It's just great farm from the Tartarus Titans all the way across the map. Even in these situations, the Valhalla Valkyries are able to get proactive. They are able to take the gold for themselves. Still struggling to find that separation. Had Aquarius been able to stick around in the lane, maybe he could have delayed the Pyro. If both neutral objectives go the way of the Valhalla Valkyries, all of a sudden you're talking about a game that's been blown wide open. But the Tartarus Titans, ever the veteran team, and the Masters champions, probably won't make it too easy for the rookies in the league.
Yeah, you get the lead for Aquarius, you get a lead for Benny. Kiermy's still slightly behind where Layers is in terms of experience. Gamma slightly behind. Now, Wowie at least maintaining some parity with Cyclone's win. Although with Cyclone being 0-1-0 and you having 2 assists, maybe not exactly where you'd like to be. And that goes back to what you said. Just good farming, man, from the Titans. They get the Pyromancer and manage to alleviate some of the pressure of that Gold Fury that the Valkyries were able to secure with no problem. And then I start looking towards their items. You know, we had some stacks going on earlier. The Warlock staff to get some health there for Paul. Soul Eater over here for SOT. But it's a little late in the Thieves for Aurora. Going very similar to what we've been seeing, I guess, out of Jake with the Chronos Pendant first. You get those cooldowns up more often. And you have a little bit of punch behind your abilities that maybe is unexpected from a support this early on.
And with Ganesh already getting such a good infusion of power, means that his scaling on the ultimate, which already hits relatively hard, is going to hit even harder. Makes it much easier to look towards these neutral objectives or even trying to lock down single targets. If Aquarius starts to rotate into a team fight, he doesn't have the greatest answers to Dharmic Pillars. So keep your eyes on Aurora. He should be dealing a pretty decent amount by now, but certainly not tanky just yet, especially compared to Gamma, who's already finished up his Thieves and has already moved in towards Sovereignty as well. Going to be a little while until Aurora can be that frontliner for his squad.
There's some aggression onto Aurora in the jungle. Aggression onto Layers in the mid lane. Neither is going to come out with a kill. The Valkyries not going as deep, I think, as they maybe could, but also probably shouldn't anyway. So keeping it safe. This is a good spot for them to be in. I mean, Mifflin, it's been slow and steady, but it's 2,000 gold. It's just enough that at 14 minutes you feel like you've got a comfortable lead. You're still dealing with some of the experience problems, I think, that we were talking about earlier. But soon you'll have a Fury coming back in a little under 2 minutes. Just a little over 2 minutes, you'll have the Pyromancer making its way back. And so a lot of options for him. Plus Trebuchets available to try and gather all the offerings for. It means that we're in an interesting scenario. And honestly, with the pace of this game, it comes down to the question of mid-game fights, you know, these 3v3 skirmishes that we're seeing in the jungle, how they're going to go. But also late-game 5-on-5s, because it feels like we're going to be approaching that much quicker than we're going to see any of these other smaller skirmishes.
Well, we might see some fights around these objectives once they spawn up, and shouldn't be too much longer even. Just now, significant grouping from the Tartarus Titans matched by the Valhalla Valkyries on the right-hand side of the map, but nothing to fight over, so nothing fought over here. I'm expecting both of these Soul Eaters to start making the rotation. The Tartarus Titans are not so far behind that I think they're willing to allow the Valhalla Valkyries to get the Gold Fury or the Oni Fury in about a minute when it respawns. So could be that we see SOT start to make that rotation. If that's the case, and maybe a detriment to my own analysis here, he just utilized his teleport to get back to lane, so won't be able to make the rotation all the way across the map. Neither will Aquarius. At least not at a moment's notice. We'll have to walk the old-fashioned way. So could be that both teams are sensing that Gold Fury isn't really super doable right now by either side. The only reason a fight would happen there is if the Valhalla Valkyries are getting proactive and pulling it themselves. The Tartarus Titans, they're just happy to continue farming up at this point, because that's the portion of the game where they've been winning so far. When the fights are happening, the Valhalla Valkyries have been coming out ahead, but every time the game resets to a neutral state or slows down, it feels like the Tartarus Titans are doing a very good job of getting these slight upticks, and you can see it reflected in the chart. Just nothing happened over the last couple of moments, and some slight up bumps for the Titans, who are farming very efficiently.
Well, Fury spawned up. I saw Aurora and Layers like walking almost in a pincer towards it. But I think vision might have been what they wanted more than anything over on this side of the map. It's going to go towards the Valkyries, though, as of right now, for who can see the most. This 2,000 gold lead kind of plateaued over the last couple of minutes. So now I think it's a good time to take a trip into the builds. Specifically, I want to ask you about Yu Huang's and Paul's build here. Just in terms of like, like power output, I know you like Warlock Staff as a base item. I might have to wait. Layers actually taking more damage. What a bargain for here. And now he's going to back off, so we can maybe go back into it. You mentioned the Warlock Staff, you liking it at base, whether or not you have the stacks. With the stacks, even better. And then into the Soul Gem and the Ob Shard. So it feels like this is going to be a build that can hit pretty hard at this point in the game.
Hits anybody pretty hard. Anytime you go towards Ob Shard this early in your build, it means that you're not too concerned about who you're applying your damage to. Generally, when you see a build like that, it's followed up by a support that can like really get the fight started or displace enemies with ease. I'm thinking of things like the Sobek or gods that can go for continual poke. But with Yu Huang having so much range, he can kind of just do it on his own. Keep throwing out that first ability at max range, connect with just about anyone in these elongated fights around objectives. You will find your value.
We'll see how much that value is worth. Again, it's just enough to block off certain areas of the jungle. Ult goes wide there from Kirmi. Almost connecting onto Cyclone. Dharmic Pillars peel away the Valkyries. Stop them from getting aggressive onto the Titans. Fury is surrounded, and Aquarius is making the long way into this. That seems to be the go button. Layers is the target, and Layers is just deleted off the board. The Valkyries opening this one up and leading it now 5-4, pulling towards the Fury.
Simple play for Aqua, who just walks into the jungle and sees Layers is back and says, hey, I'll stun him. Maybe we get some follow-up and a leap from Kirmi and a little bit more damage from everybody else. We'll finish off that kill. But can the Valhalla Valkyries stick the landing and go for the gold?
There was a little bit of an ice storm on top of Sot. He's not going to look very good after this one. Cyclone Spin just got deleted in the fight. And the Valkyries are surging forward. Aurora, half health. Stun not going to connect from the Arthur. Doesn't necessarily matter. Kirmi has a lot of damage. Just needs a little bit more, and the leap is going to be able to get it. That's 3 kills for the Valks. And a Fury still waiting.
SOT still alive, as is Layers. Paul hovering nearby, but without ultimate, will struggle to get involved. And the Gold Fury burning very quickly. Best they can hope for is a couple of kills, but it seems like Kirmi's already created the space.
Well, they're going to be walking forward. Solar Troll's there, too late for the Fury, but is he too late for the kills? Kirmi's low, and there's going to be the Scarab's Blessing, pulling him out. Aquarius should survive this. Paul wants to go in, but Sot's already falling low, dangerously so. There's the pull back onto Benny. Benny has no mana. Layers is here, and there's the pull from Kirmi. Might actually work against him. Paul has no mana and isn't able to find it. They get the mid laner. Well, Mifflin, it costs so much to do so.
Bandicoot does use his beads in Aegis, though, and the Tartarus Titans still only about 3,000 gold down, even losing a team fight as handily as they did, as well as the objective. If SOT can make it out of here alive, won't be too costly, but that's a big ask and a big if, and SOT will not. Wowie credit for the kill, but the Tartarus Titans make use of that time by going to the neutral objective on the opposite side of the map. Pyromancer in response to the Gold Fury. The second time we've seen that trade, and the second time we've seen the farm essentially stagnate immediately afterward. This, though, is different. Wowie getting active, able to take away this red buff, and could potentially start to rotate back over towards his own lane and continue pushing, because Cyclone Spin, well, he's pushing out solo, shown on the map now and met up with Kirmi.
Will be good farm. Nothing that you need to worry about other than the towers over there on left. And those towers, well, one of them's already gone. Wowie with a massive wave, though.
Enhanced.
And look at those archers. Yeah, that's going to be enough to get a good chunk onto that tier 2. Is backing away. And so it comes down to the conversation around the FG pit. Last time around, 17 minutes in, Fire Giant falls down. At this point, the Titans were knocking down Phoenixes and rushing into the Titan room. So the Valks have definitely done a good job slowing that down, and now pushing themselves up to about 4,000 gold. Like you said earlier, it almost stagnated around 3K, which you can see a steady climb for them. The Titans are having trouble figuring their way back into this.
Yeah, they're having a hard time figuring out the initiation. Last game, SOT was so far ahead that he could just walk into these team fights and pull the attention of the Valhalla Valkyries, and Aurora on the Kepri didn't have to worry so much, but now on Ganesh, not as tanky as you might hope, especially with this strange tier 1 item style build, Winged Blade tier 1 and Breastplate 1 as well, so not a massive infusion of any stats, really, from either of those. Some slight movement speed and a little bit of physical protections. But outside of that, not getting access to those passives means that it's going to be a little while until he hits the value of those items. So what will the Tartarus Titans do in the meantime? You'd expect them to just continue farming, but looking at how they're grouping on the map, it feels like the Tartarus Titans are still willing to play aggressive and still willing to take a fight into this disparity. But it's the Valhalla Valkyries pulling out the fire. Did Layers spot it? I'm not sure.
Should have seen it. If not, Aurora has to at this point.
Oh, they know.
And Gamma, yes,
going
for
low?
the hold. 2 people, then leash the Fire Giant, and now the fight is going to go on. Beads from Solar Troll jumping in, chasing Kirmi and BennyQ all at once, and they're going to leap. There's a good call from Layers. Gets one, procs the Scarab's Blessing on the other. BennyQ is being chased down, and with that Aegis timing out, that's going to be another kill for the solo laner. Gamma isolated from the squad, and the Titans come in and pick up 3.
Just a wild call to go for the Fire Giant there. You don't really have confirmation, and the Valhalla Valkyries take notice of it. The second the Titans show up, it's a peel off, but a double ultimate from SOT into a double ultimate from Layers into a 3-man cage from Aurora.
That's pretty good.
When you're placing all those ults as well as you had, and the Valkyries were already weakened by the Fire Giant, the fight is going to go the way of the Tartarus Titans. Just got to think the Valks, with the lead they were playing with, 4,000 at the 20-minute mark is not paltry. That's a substantial sum. You could have either grouped up and tried to take out one of these weakened towers. Tier 1 and mid, not so much, but Tier 1 on right, pretty weak. And if the Tartarus Titans try and defend there, maybe you find a pick, then you go for the Fire Giant. But instead, the Valkyries get a little bit trigger happy, I suppose, and pull out the Fire Giant themselves and immediately lose the team fight, costing them not only the fight, but also the objective. Tartarus Titans 5 strong with fire can start to close up that gold and experience gap, and there are plenty of caches of both on the map. 5 towers still standing.
I want to see the charts because they only got the 1 tier 1, but look at that spike. Not just the experience, but the gold. How quickly it went from 4,000 ahead to negligible. I mean, yes, it's even for these games, but when you have that big of a lead, that is impressive from the Titans to dwindle it that quickly. And like you said, there's still 5 towers on the map. 2 tier 1s will only get you 1,000. There's what, 4,500 in the back line for everything else when you get those tier 2s, so it is going to be more than worthwhile to try and knock it all down. And you'll find yourselves at a comfortable lead. First time this game that the Titans will be able to say that one. And you had been looking at it. It was a weird build for Aurora earlier. It's gotten even weirder because he did sell one of those tier 1s to help finish off the Spectral, so now there's just a gap in the build. But it has allowed him to withstand some damage in front of Wowie a little bit longer.
Yeah, upgrades his relics as well, so Bracer now finished up. You're able to utilize that for some additional movement speed and power around these sieges. Pretty important, I'd argue. But it's a split attempt from the Tartarus Titans. SOT acting as solo agent with Paul hovering nearby in the jungle while the rest of the team starts to work on those left side towers. The Valhalla Valkyries cannot get distracted by this. Someone's got to stop SOT. You send the rest of them over to deal with that left side push. BennyQ being on the right-hand side of the map, though, will close up those opportunities. SOT shouldn't know about this, though. Could be a gank attempt if this Raven gets overzealous. Knows now because an Ice Storm's on his head, so BennyQ will rotate in the safe way.
They've been splitting just enough layers, hanging around SOT. Now maybe fainting back with Paul to go join the duo lane as they try to figure out how to break this open. Exposing a Phoenix could be a big deal here, but it doesn't seem like the Valkyries are going to let this go. Maybe we have time for it, and I can ask, is it the right call to try and defend the tier 2 in an even, well, mostly even fight? Kirmi's maybe looping around the backline, but with the poke they're getting, it feels like this is just eventually going to fall because of Cyclone Spin.
As long as you're able to slow down the push, that's enough. Benny takes a lot of damage, though, from the dueling dragons. Dharmic Pillars drop. That should spell the end of this engagement. Gamma forced to abduct defensively, and SOT, who had started to make the rotation, has decided that his time is better spent elsewhere. Will continue his own personal siege in mid.
Now, downside for the Titans, there's a Trebuchet there. You want to burn through that before you can burn through that Phoenix. We had mentioned it earlier, but now it's a Sigil of the Old Guard picked up here for Solar Troll. Maybe you can break that one down in a second because the Phoenix is in trouble. Damage onto Kirmi's good. There's the Darkest of Nights. And immediately that lets Cyclone Spin hit pretty hard, pretty far away, forcing Kirmi to fall back. Gamma hovering around that halfway mark. Aurora trying to figure out how to tank this. Aqua goes in. Aqua's getting some good damage out there. And Sot has to play this carefully. Along with the rest of the Titans, that should be enough to repel them from the Phoenix.
Layers is at least able to take out that tier 2 in mid, though, so nothing ventured, nothing lost, or nothing gained, and they ventured and gained. Did the Tartarus Titans gained a substantial lead, nearly 6,000 in their favor. Fire Giant power play now over. No more neutral objectives on the left side of the map. Permanent objectives, for the most part, dealt with. Only one tier 2 tower is still standing. And the Titans find themselves in a not dissimilar position to what we saw in Game 1. Except it took them a little bit longer to get there. The Valhalla Valkyries, having slowed down that siege from the Tartarus Titans, having played around these tier 2 towers, have kept the game in a relatively even state. You're not so far behind that I think you have to allow the Fire Giant to fall down. And this time around, it will be the Tartarus Titans being the aggressors onto the neutral objective. So if the Valkyries are capable of it, they might be able to position nearby, toss out some poke damage. Not really the greatest sustain on the Tartarus Titans. You've got decent poke from BennyQ and Kirmi on this Bastet. If you could just slow down the Titans and take this fight long, maybe the Valkyries can fight their way back in.
Ignoring the prots, and I'm happy it was just highlighted. We'll see it maybe here. Damage mitigation for Sot is through the roof. Gonna leap in, and it's looking good for them. Gamma is trying to find the way to peel. Layers going for Kirmi immediately. Slows are gonna be there. Wow, he forced to ult away, and the rest of the Titans are moving forward. Solar Blessings there, Solar Blessings procced, and they're just looking for the kill afterward. They kill Kirmi, and they do it twice, then Gamma, and now they're chasing more. Cyclone loses his life in the process, but Paul picks up revenge against Wowie. Now can they face down BennyQ, the Merlin putting in the work, but not able to close the gap and kill off his opponent. Paul's still alive, Aurora, and and Solo. Still barely kicking, but kicking nonetheless. Benny's low. But he seems to have a mind about him. If they try to back here, he's going to stop him. There's the flicker forward. There's some damage.
Here comes
just
Aqua.
Off the mark. Solar Troll's looking for more. Can he at least get the kill on the mid laner? Doesn't seem to be the answer is yes. Aquarius is doing a lot. Paul trying to peel. They don't have the mana. They don't have the damage to kill off Aqua, but they do get BennyQ. Aurora trades his life out for it. Aquarius slowly being whittled down. Sot wants this fight. That healing from earlier, we talked about it. It helps pay off. Doesn't even have the Soul Eater anymore. And it works out in their favor.
Yeah, all that damage mitigation from the Mystic
so
Rush.
Much.
Yeah, he's just incredibly survivable.
What,
mitigation from the ultimate, mitigation from the passive Sigil the Old Guard, Lono's Mask as well. SOT's not taking damage when the stars align, and the stars align there. Fire Giant for 4 members of the Tartarus Titans, but it's not an ended fight. Layers takes a whole lot.
Layers takes a lot, but deals a lot. Dies with the Fire Giant. And they're going to be able to get 1 kill in return onto Gamma. That one's incredibly staggered out. And good luck, Wowie, indeed. No blink, no ult. So Sot's trying to do this the old-fashioned way. No way is he going to go under the tower. Okay, he is. But he recognizes that he might not have enough damage for it. Also recognizes there's no way, at least with just Wowie, that he's going to get turned around. Paul's going for something deep as well. Now that he's got Cyclone, and in like 30 seconds, it's going to take Aurora to run all the way over here. They're eventually going to have their front line back.
Yeah, but until then, there's not really much of a siege attempt to be made. Again, Merlin's so strong in these defense situations that you really need to be 5 strong if you want to approach these Phoenixes, and the Tartarus Titans are anything but right now. Instead, they will fall back, clear out as much neutral farm as they can, pick up the Pyromancer, regroup. Wouldn't be surprised to see both Aurora and Cyclone spin back after this Pyro start to work their way over towards the left side of the map afterward. So the Valhalla Valkyries have a moment to catch their breath and think about how they want to approach this defense. And having seen now what SOT is capable of doing, first step, ignore that guy. You're not killing him, and he's not dealing so much damage that you really need to concern yourself. So I'd like to see the Valhalla Valkyries essentially just save him for last and instead focus their attention onto either Cyclone or Paul. Even Layers, to a certain extent, is pretty easy to deal with. Doesn't really have the most damage mitigation in his build, but does have it in the kit. Osiris very survivable with that passive and tether, but he's going like a double katana, double executioner / balance blade style build, which means if Kirmi is able to connect some of that damage, or if BennyQ is able to land that arcane stance pull in, or if Gamma gets an abduct, even Layers would fall down with ease. Valhalla Valkyries will not break their base, instead stand on the line. And I think they're right to do so. Play with that unofficial 6 men in the Phoenix. The Tartarus Titans, they'll have to work hard.
Especially, well, I was going to say the Valks are going to have to. Yeah, I was going to say Valks are going to have to work hard because Sot's health bar. He literally doesn't care about that. He's healing faster than that's dealing damage to him. That is nuts. That's not even with the Mystic Rush available. And that's not even with a majority of the Oni Hunter's garb working for him. The passive is based on people nearby. Yeah, I mean, this is just good. And now they're getting aggressive. Sot can dive deep with no worries. Cyclone, though, has to worry about contending for their life against Aquarius. Some good damage from Paul. Helps peel away the solo laner. There's a pull onto Wowie.
Beats.
They don't have the damage back to be able to deal with this. Paul goes up into the sky, comes back down. Hear Me is the target for now. They're not able to get him. Hear Me, Aqua, now Wowie, back into the fountain. Benny Q getting chased by Sot, leaves Gamma out to dry, and it turns it to a 4v5 kills, 12-12. The mid Phoenix goes down, the Valkyries have to defend.
Gamma just trying to use that abduct to reposition himself, accidentally pulls someone in and doesn't cancel it quick enough to get access to his ultimate. So 40 seconds of the grayscale to think about the fact that his ultimate is not on cooldown. 4 strong for the Valhalla Valkyries, 5 strong for the Titans, but only 30 seconds left on this Fire Giant power play. It's not going to be super simple to take this Phoenix, but doesn't seem like there's much fight back potential either.
Oh my god, Aquarius just deleted Kirmi now. Trying their best, but the best is not enough here. Paul gets the kill. Cyclone's low, Aurora is low. But they still have the damage numbers behind them, backing them up. Left side, Phoenix
Stop hitting
is
Sot.
going to be the target for a little while. They're going to join Paul, Sot, and Cyclone here as they aggress. Titan at the ready to defend. 33 minutes in, they're going to start walking towards the base. Cyclone looking for the damage. Aurora drops the Dharmic Pillars. Benny Q has the Scarab's Blessing. And is going to get back to the fountain with the healing. Titan already 1/3 health, and that's all the Titans want. They don't care about the kills, but they'll pick up a couple anyway. Wowie goes down, trades out layers. Aurora killed off Paul. You got to find this one for the squad, and they're going to be able to do it. Win this set 2-0.
One major mistake from the Valhalla Valkyries cost them a whole lot of effort. I believe it came at around that 19-20 minute mark where we saw them group up on the Fire Giant and lose that fight and the Fire Giant at one fell swoop as well as their lead. But it speaks volumes that this new team is still able to establish those kinds of leads against the Tartarus Titans, a tenured squad and the Phase 1 Masters champions. So my heart goes out to the Valks, who still will not be able to find themselves a win just yet. But the Tartarus Titans, well, at least it shows they can bleed. I have a special request for the desk, though.
Okay.
I got a special request. I want to see Sot's damage mitigation. I just got to know. I just got to know.
I've heard Trelly say some sort of number there. 91,000.
That's too much.
Is what I was just told.
He's
that
gonna
broke
get him
my
nerfed.
brain. You know what?
Robin just got buffed. He's going to get him nerfed, man.
Robin completely gone. He's erased from the meta. But it's going to be... Oh, sorry, Mifflin. That was too low. It's 96,000.
Oh, man.
That number breaks
watching,
my brain.
Bro.
We're just going to throw it to the desk. They can figure that one out.
Here's a fun fact to start off the death segment. Charlie Brown's father, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, by the way. Charlie Brown's father was a barber. That's a fun fact. Wait, was that real? 96,000 damage mitigated?
Yeah, the dart showed us towards the end as that Titan siege happened.
My goodness. Okay, well look, the Tartarus Titans roll here in game number 2. That said, leaving game 1, going into game 2, what we wanted to see from the Valkyries was an improvement, a stabilization. Even if you end up losing the set 2-0, show us that you've improved from game number 1. I do think, outside of a bad decision, the Valkyries did show improvement. They were able to hang in the early game. They had a gold lead going into that Fire Giant call, and then the Tartarus Titans able to flip it around and start to pull the lead from that point on. So I do think growth in areas from the Valhalla Valkyries. But really, Charlie, I think this is exactly what the Titans needed after a 2-0 loss earlier on this weekend to the Oni Warriors. Get a comp, get a draft that's sort of new and unique, really fits your style well. And it works really well here for the Titans. And I think this has got to be a bit of a momentum builder, a bit of a confidence restorer for this squad.
Yeah, I would say so. The Valks definitely looked great at the beginning of this. I think Kirmi not getting first-blooded certainly started off really solid, right? It was just the Bastet was off to a 6-0 lead. The Valks looked so solid. And then, as the casters mentioned, as we all saw, that Fire Giant call, That was just at the highlight of these, right, the start of these highlights rather, was just not the play. They didn't have that much of a comfortable lead to go for a Fire Giant, and unfortunately threw the game for them, and the Titans were able to just answer back. And once their comp got online, we saw what it was able to do from ahead, and then we saw what it was able to do from even to once again ahead. The Titans were just able to run through that one. SOT mitigating so much damage, just completely unkillable with the way he's decided to build this Robin, and also was able to do a fair bit of damage.
Well, SOT had an absurd set. Think back to game 1, where he's able to upgrade his Bluestone, if I'm remembering correctly, in the fountain of the Valkyries while they're ending the game. So 4, 3, and 10 for both Layers and SOT. And then a nice 5 and 4 performance from Cyclone Spin. Paul, I believe, goes undying this set on the Yu Huang, so there is some safety in that kit, but also you're going to see in just a moment plenty of damage added in there as well. I think Hear Me actually had a really nice game put together early on in this best set. Wow. 96,962 damage mitigate from SOT in game number 2. What's the high? I don't know. That's such a random stat. I was going to ask you what the highest damage mitigated you can remember seeing is, but I can't remember damage mitigated from
I don't
last set.
I don't have the quick maps to
Well,
figure
here's the
out
good news is now this is the metric that we've set.
Okay.
So like the next time we see a high damage mitigated game, we'll say, well, SOT had 96,000 that one game, 48,000 damage from Paul. And so the KDA wasn't absurd for Paul. The sheer amount of damage outpouring was just absurd. What do you think, Trelly? Robin solo, is it the new age meta? You think we're going to see more of it?
Well, I mean, it gives me the vibes of like that Hades build that was popping up for a bit with the Bumbus Hammer, the Stone of Fall, Oni Hunter's Garb, just full tank as much as you can, and then just this time Glad Shield is the damage dealer, right? The more protections you build, the Glad Shield's proccing, and then also just insane amounts of dive. So it could be. If you're not SOT, though, I wouldn't try without some practice. SOT,
96,000 damage mitigated here in game 2. And a whole lot of highlight reel plays on the Robin solo. Also standing by for the post-game interview. SOT, hell of a set for you guys. Let's start with Friday, though, first, before we get into gushing all over you guys for today. 0-2 loss to the Oni Warriors on Friday. What changes did the team make? What did you take away from the set on Friday that you wanted to work on in this matchup?
I think on Friday, our drafts weren't great. We just had a bad plan. We stuck to our plan, but I don't think the plan was great.
Right.
So we changed up a few things. Also, we were a bit, we weren't very energetic on Friday. We were kind of like, just like, kind of like zombies, kind of just like, oh, pick me this. Oh, can you come here? Can we go on this? Instead of like, guys, you know, come here, queen bait this, queen bait this, queen bait this. So we kind of just dialed it up today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It looked good for you guys. So walk me through the Robin solo here. Obviously, with the Osiris picked, the debate on the desk was, is it Layers on Robin, you on Osiris solo? Was that ever really a debate, or was that always intended Robin solo, and what's the theory behind it?
I mean, I came in last night wanting to play it because we actually haven't streamed it with it once at all.
Really?
I haven't seen it in streams a single time.
Nice.
But I've been playing a lot of ranked, and I saw you got buffed in patch notes, and I'm like, they kind of buffed him pretty crazily. I'm like, what is this? And so I started queuing up some ranks playing him. He was pretty good, and I saw Cool Kid Quinn, aka Quinn Jamarcus in ranks, and he was kind of going up with the Robin, and I've been playing it as well, and I'm like, this has got to be broken.
Gotta work.
He might be the best. I don't know. I mean, he's really strong.
Are you nervous that you got him nerfed now?
I was thinking about that. I think he's gonna get nerfed for sure. I don't know. People are gonna start catching on. He's really good. I hope he doesn't get nerfed too hard.
Right. Well, look, the good news is you made use of it while he's strong.
And also, with the damage mitigated thing, the most I've seen actually was like last week.
Yeah.
In scrims, I had 202k damage mitigated in like
45
minutes, and I was like.
But it wasn't Robin because
it was not. Yeah, it was not. I think it was like Osiris. I don't know who it was, but it was something crazy. I'm like, I've never seen it that high.
96,000 is absurdly high. Just from me, so 202,000 maybe one day. Look, it was a great set from you guys. Good way to get back on track. Love the new look out of composition. So thanks for your time and best of luck in your next games.
Okay, whatever.
What was that?
I don't know.
He's laughing, so maybe he was joking. I'm not sure.
No, he's mad at me for sure now. I've revealed the strategies. Titans back on track. Looking forward to what they're able to do in their next couple of matchups moving forward. And so I think this is exactly what the doctor ordered for this team. Especially, I love the analysis on the Robin pick, and it's like, I never really scrimmed with it, just kind of worked out, and we brought it into the game. And so we have one Final set remaining for this week in the SPL. Camelot Kings up against the Solar Scarab. So the Tartarus Titans able to maintain or reestablish some momentum moving forward. This final set very important for the Camelot Kings as far as standings go, because as of right now, the Olympus Bolts find themselves towards the top of the standings, at the top of the standings, got 3-0, would stand alone if the Camelot Kings do drop this set, and it would be big for the Solar Scarabs as well, by just a little bit of space from the bottom of that squad. And the week number 1 Prime MVP Captain Twig playing, I believe, finally be able to claim his crown.
He should be wearing it, and he'll claim it and put it on, and we should be able to see it. So keep your eyes peeled for that player cam, Captain Twig. He deserves it.
I'm trying to think who, because Twig only gets one set to maintain his crown.
Yeah,
right.
He wants to get it again.
Right, you want to get it again.
Idea.
There have been some really good performances here this week. Can Captain Twig maintain the Prime SPL MVP crown? Can the Solar Scarabs take a win away from the Camelot Kings? All that and more in our final set of the week, right after this.